Hey guys, welcome back to another video at Jensen's Reptiles. Today I'm going to be talking about Viper Geckos. Viper Geckos are a small species of gecko that come from India and Pakistan. They live in really similar environments to leopard geckos. They are about half the size, if not smaller. So what I want to do today is show you the setup that I have for my two female Viper Geckos, why I've done things the way I have, and a little bit of background talk on what these guys need. So the enclosure that I'm using is a 3-foot Viv Exotic. It is the Viva Plus, so it's a little bit deeper, and it's got these handy cable vents in it as well. That's how you know you've got the Viva Plus. So it's quite a tall enclosure for these geckos, but I've provided them with UV that's a little bit of a higher percentage than what they would need if the enclosure was shorter. So in here they actually have a 12% UVB, but if the enclosure was a little bit less tall, then a 6% would be absolutely fine. These guys do like to come out and bask for a little bit during the day and get that UV before they go and hide away again. These geckos are crepuscular, so they're most active at dawn and dusk. So I will see these guys really early morning when that UV comes on, and I'll see them towards the afternoon, and they usually spend most of the night out and about. Heating wise, it will depend on your house temperature for what you do here. So I use a basking bulb for them, but you can see I've got another fixture in here as well. Now, should the winter temperatures drop a little bit and the ambience not hold overnight, what we would do is put the basking bulb into this angled ceramic and put a deep heat projector from Arcadia into this downward ceramic, so they've got a nighttime temperature going on as well that can be easily maintained. At the moment, the room that they're in does not drop below 20 degrees. It's very, very unlikely that it even drops below 24 degrees at the moment as we're creeping into summer. But as far as temperatures you want to provide a nice warm spot of around 30 degrees Celsius over this side, and no lower than 22 degrees over on the cooler end. So let's have a look at where this is sitting today. I believe it should be around 30 degrees or 29 to 30 over here, and most likely around 26 elsewhere in the enclosure. So if we have a look here, yeah, so 29.5 under the bulb. And then if we go down to the cooler end, bearing in mind it is 26 degrees outside at the moment. Yeah, so we've got about 26 degrees on the cooler side. Now, in the winter months, that gradient is a lot more pronounced, but it doesn't ever drop below 22 degrees in this enclosure, which is nice. So for nighttime temperatures, these geckos can happily have kind of 18 to 20 degrees overnight, but of course in captivity we're looking to keep our animals really comfortable, not just replicate wild conditions just for the sake of it. So 20 to 22 degrees is what you should be aiming for your cooler end and your nighttime temperatures. You'll have happy geckos then. So to talk a little bit more about these geckos, as I said, they come from India and Pakistan, so a huge landmass that they cover. Anyone who's ever been deployed in the military may have seen these guys running around military bases as well. So I've heard from a couple of friends of mine. What they do like is little crevices that they can squeeze into. So what we've done here with these rocks is kind of angle them all this way, and then put struts going up against them to provide all of these little nooks and crannies. So over on this side, we've got this flat rock which provides this basking space. Underneath it, a nice hide which we can turn into a humid hide if we want to, just by spraying down the substrate. But actually, if we get closer up in here, all of these little crevices go really far back. And I think we've got a gecko right there. I think it might be a little bit blurry, but you can just about make out a little face there. So that's one little nook that's being used. If we go over to the warm side, you can see all of these little spaces are great for crawling into. And then over here, we've got the other little gecko. So she's just hiding down there at the moment. I think if we go this way, you might be able to see her face down there. But that's basically what these guys do during the day. So all of these little spaces in the rocks are perfect for them to hide in. What we also wanted to do was create a few high points as well. So with heat, you obviously have your heat gradient from right to left in this case. So we've got the warm side over here, heat's dissipating over this way, and we've got the ventilation pulling warm air out and putting cooler air in. So it's this constant movement of air. Now, a heat gradient's one thing, but we also need to consider a light gradient, so a photo gradient. With our UV, as I was saying, the higher up it is, the stronger you want to go to make sure that your animal's getting enough. But you also want to give them the option. Now, these geckos will know better what their body needs than I do. So in those moments of needing UV to synthesize D3, to use calcium properly, to make sure that their bones are healthy, they might do what one of them's doing over here, which is just to have the tail exposed and be getting the UV that way. Now this little one under here has decided she doesn't need it right now, and that's absolutely fine. But what we may see is them walking up to these points for shorter amounts of time to get a higher exposure of UV. So things you want to consider when setting up any enclosure for a crepuscular animal is that they will know when they need it. They might just throw out their tail, they might throw out the tip of their nose, or maybe even their whole body for a short amount of time. But giving them the option of using that photo gradient to their benefit is a great way to start. So piling up from nice and low down to peaks. And even in this enclosure, we probably could have gone a bit higher. But when you're working with rocks, you want to make sure that they're nice and secure and you're not going to accidentally squash one of your animals. That would be the worst thing. So we've covered heating, we've covered lighting. Let's talk a little bit more about the substrate. So in here, it's a sand and soil mix. It's a commercial reptile brand, Lucky Reptile Desert Mix, I think it's called. Drop me a comment if you want to know the specifics, and I'll happily share a link with you. And there's a bit of kind of shingle around here as well, a little bits of chipped slate, just so there's that textured effect of moving from the sand up into the rock. It also gives a nice water runoff on the days that I spray the enclosure down. India and Pakistan have monsoon seasons, so these animals are used to heavy rainfall, but they don't do all that well in it. So in an enclosure, what you want to do is actually just monitor it really carefully, because you want to keep their humidity between 40 and 50%. With, you know, a spot to shed in is great, but with this rough textures everywhere, they don't have an issue. In the wild, you may have heavy rainfall, but you've also not got a box around you, so moisture can be wicked away really quickly. In an enclosure like this, moisture is not wicked away really quickly, and it can sit in there, and that's when you start developing problems with respiratory infections and just way too much moisture in the enclosure for these little guys to enjoy. So I spray down the enclosure with a very, very light mist, probably every 2 weeks or so. But other than that, there is always fresh water for these geckos to come and enjoy. But like most desert animals, they get most of their moisture from their food. So what you really want to do is provide a good variety of insects for them to eat that have been really well gut loaded and are supplemented with a good multivitamin, and also calcium every second or third feed as well. So that is it for Viper Geckos. I hope it's been helpful. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do have any questions, just drop them in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Until then, hope you're having a great day, and I will catch you all soon.